turning into an amazing story about a penguin swims 5,000 miles every year for reunion with the man who saved his life. Each year, Dindin spends approximately 8 months with Zhao and is believed to spend the rest of the time breeding off the coast of Argentina and Chile. This has got to be one of the most heartwarming wildlife stories we ever published on Adult. This little South American Magellanic penguin swims 5,000 miles to a beach in Brazil every year in order to be reunited with the man who saved his life. It sounds like something out of a fairy tale, but it's true. 71-year-old retired bricklayer and pastime fisherman João Pereira de Souza, who lives in an island village just outside Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, found a small Magellanic penguin lying on rocks at his local beach in 2011. The penguin was covered in oil and running out of time fast. Zhao rescued the penguin, naming it Dindin, cleaned the oil off its feathers, and fed him a daily diet of fish to rebuild its strength. After a week of rehabilitation, Zhao attempted to release the penguin back into the wild. However, Dindin had already formed a family bond with his rescuer and wouldn't leave. He stayed with me for 11 months and then, just after he changed his coat with new feathers, he disappeared, Zhao recalls. The little guy wasn't gone long, though, and just a few months later, he was back at the same beach. He supported Zhao fishing and followed him home, staying with him for the rest of the year. Amazingly, this cycle has continued over the past 5 years. Each year, Dindin spends approximately 8 months with Zhao and is believed to spend the rest of the time breeding on the Patagonia coast of Argentina and Chile. I love the penguin like it's my own child, and I believe the penguin loves me, Zhao told Global TV. No one else is allowed to touch him. He pecks them if they do. He lays on my lap, lets me give him showers, allows me to feed him sardines and to pick him up. Everyone said he wouldn't return, but he has been coming back to visit me for the past 5 years. He arrives in June and leaves to go home in February, and every year he becomes more affectionate as he appears even happier to see me. Professor Krajewski, a biologist who interviewed the fisherman for Global TV, told The Independent, "I have never seen anything like this before. I think the penguin believes Zhao is part of his family, and probably a penguin as well. When he sees him, he wags his tail like a dog and honks with delight." Penguins live for about 25 years, are known for their loyalty to their mates, staying with the same partner until they die. However, environmentalists warn that while hundreds of the Magellanic species are known to naturally migrate thousands of miles north in search of food, there have been a worrying rise in the phenomenon of oceanic creatures washing up on Brazil's beaches. Professor David Z, an oceanographer from Rio de Janeiro State University, said the increase is due in part to global climate changes. He explained, every year the strong ocean current from the Falkland region traps and brings many species of shells, whales, dolphins, turtles, and penguins to the Brazilian coasts. It is becoming more problematic due to environmental changes and the increasing frequency of El Nino, in which the Pacific Ocean is warming up for prolonged periods of time. The marine creatures get confused and lost as they are dragged away on the surf from their normal habitat and end up in areas where they are unable to survive. Professor Z added sea animals face increased danger with ongoing contaminations of the oceans with oil and other derivatives spilled by oil tankers. Luckily, the ending for Zhao and Dindin has been a happy one, even though it is illegal in Brazil to keep wild animals as pets. Professor Krajewski said, professionals who work with animals try to avoid relationships like this occurring so they are able to reintroduce the animal into the wild. But in this isolated case, the authorities allowed Dindin to stay with Zhao because of his kindness. An interesting game for the news in the morning. This game allows you to plant trees around the world simply by answering trivial questions correctly. This clever online game is helping people to passively plant trees around the world simply by answering trivial questions. Plant the Peace is an internet game that quizzes its players on geography, English vocabulary, and the environment. For every 10 questions that are answered correctly, the game sponsors donate enough money to plant one tree in Africa. The initiative works similarly to Free Rise, an internet trivial game that donates right for every English vocabulary question that a user guesses correctly. Since the World Food Program began using the game to generate donations from their sponsorships, Free Rice players have been helping to donate millions of grains of rice every day. Many people have asked us why it's necessary or fair to ask people to play a game in order to help people in need. Why can't the sponsors donate the money in advance? Says the Free Rice organizers. We could, in theory, ask our players to just look at the sponsor messages unattached to any source of game, but answering questions and challenging yourselves is more motivating than just reloading a page over and over. Without the game itself, our users would have no reason to return to the site. If you have fun with the game and get smarter by playing it, you are more likely to answer more questions, see more messages, and generate more payments to WFP, they concluded. The Plant the Peace trees, meanwhile, are planted by Trees for the Future, a Maryland-based non-profit dedicated to ending hunger and poverty in sub-Saharan Africa by planting trees. Since the non-profit only recently launched the game, they have helped to plant about 1,500 trees.